Hey everyone, it's Adam here. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you about the news that just came out in the last couple of weeks about BMW issuing not a recall, but like a maintenance bulletin for dealers. It's a global maintenance bulletin. It in fact impacts nearly 500,000 motorcycles, about 440,000 bikes that are shaft driven from 2011 to 2020 and some newer. So that's the GS, the RT, etc., etc. You're not going to find this bulletin on the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration website through the recall lookup tool. You're just not going to find it. You have to call your dealer up, and they're really instructing dealers to do this when the bike is in for maintenance. So, you know, if you're really having a fit over this and you're nervous about a problem that's going to happen, you're about to go on a big around the world trip, I would say buy a set of tires from your dealer or schedule an oil change. And they're supposed to, when you go and call them up with that, is that a Class 6 road? They're supposed to, I'm on the wrong bike for that today. They're supposed to mention to you that there's this 45-minute test they're going to run where they're going to, without disassembling your final drive, they're going to run a test that's going to take 45 minutes that's going to tell them if there's any drive shaft damage, in which case they will then do a replacement of whatever parts need to be replaced. Let me take a step back though. I'm going to take a quick step back. In 2011, 2012, when the liquid-cooled GSs came out, the 1200cc variety, BMW changed things up when they came to the design of the final drive or your rear drive shaft on your motorcycle. Some of us, you know, I don't expect all of you all that own GSs that watch this channel to follow all of the internet posts and all of keeping track of all that like back and forth talk of all the internet nerds, because you're probably busy riding and not reading the internet forums, and I don't blame you there. But starting with the liquid-cooled models, a bunch of us started discovering, and this is, you know, drive shaft lubing and maintenance and failures have been a topic among BMW nerds for as long as there have been drive shafts. You know, the K75 and K100 owners, they lube their splines every 3,000 miles. And GS owners and RT owners of the liquid-cooled variety with the 1200 power plant started realizing that they were having premature rust on the lower and the upper splines. And so despite the fact that we're 10 to 12 years into this design, most BMW dealers refuse to consider that a part of maintenance. Even if you're happy to charge for it, to pay them for it, they still are of the position of, no, you don't need it. It's a closed system. We'll change your final drive fluid per the manual, but we're not going to open things up and lube splines with like a Molly kind of water-resistant lubrication. It's just not going to do it. So a lot of us have documented, I have videos on this channel, how you drop your final drive, during your final drive fluid change interval, and at least lube the lower portion. Particularly if you've ever ridden in wet or damp environments or done water crossing. So if you're an avid iron butt rider and you ride in the rain, you know, a few times a year, you should do this every 12,000 miles. So every 2 oil changes, basically in time with your final drive changes. But I even went a step further and I said you should do it when you take delivery of your bike. You should take it home during the 600-mile maintenance when you do your final drive fluid, lube your splines, buy the Molly paste from Beamer Boneyard and lube your splines up, because it's unlikely they were lubed from the factory. That's metal on metal, and you're going to have that rust that is degrading the contact area of your splines. Sometime in the 1250 era, Berlin did start lubing splines. But they were still lubing splines with what BMW has now admitted to be a design failure. What that means is we all have, if you look at your final drive, I'll post a picture here, you have a drive shaft housing. On the outside, it's hollow on the inside with a solid metal drive shaft that connects from your drive at your engine side, the transmission, to your final drive output, which is what's spinning your wheel. I shifted it too high for some reason. At both sides are like an 18 spline pattern where both of them marry up and it drives your rear wheel. There's a bit of play in it. and it'll play in the way it spins, but it is a solid connection with the way it mounts up, marries up. But where your final drive gearbox, rear bevel gears, mount up to that hollow piece that connects your swing arm, that is your rear swing arm, is a rubber/plastic boot that is lubed and sealed from the factory, and you should lube it every time you drop your final drive to do your spline lube. BMW intended us never to drop our final drive to lube the splines. That's why it's sealed that way. But you can take it out. There's a couple little connectors on both sides of it. When you go through water crossings, that area of your final drive is constantly increasing and decreasing pressure so much there's actually a breather valve on top of your final drive that is able to vent pressure out. But it's designed in a way where it vents pressure out but doesn't suck water back in. I've relocated my final drive breather to be higher up. It's a Touratech Farkle I bought. I don't know if it worked or not, but I've done that mod because I go through a lot of water with this bike. As you can tell how dirty it is. But what BMW is saying is that despite their best efforts, over the last 10 years, this design has been flawed. And therefore, what they're offering is for dealers to test to see if there's any mechanical degradation of power. And if there is, to to install. These aren't drain plugs, they're kind of breather valves. And what happens is when your suspension is moving back and forth and your rear swing arm is compressing up into the rear subframe, it's supposed to generate pressure and push water out. So it's a one-way valve that lives underneath your final drive, underneath your swing arm. And as your suspension compresses, it actually creates a vacuum, a reverse vacuum pressure, and it pushes water out the bottom of your swing arm. It's an 8 or a 10 millimeter hole, and they're installing this retroactively. So they're taking your hollow rear swing arm, which contains the drive shaft, and they are drilling a hole, and they're putting in 1 or 2 plugs that are intended to basically release that pressure to atmosphere and blow water out. Standing water is a contributor to condensation, but if condensation is still getting into your rear swing arm, which is hollow, that pressure valve is not going to dispel all the condensation. You're not putting a bag of rice in your hollow rear swing arm and soaking up all the condensation and replacing your baggie of rice every 1,000 to 6,000 miles. There will always be condensation back there because all that BMW is doing is they're eliminating water that is gravitationally sitting at the lower portion of your swing arm. But on a hot day, that water that was sitting there can still become a gas and sort of fill the entire cavity with humidity and do damage to a swing arm. So my thoughts are this. You should still, upon receiving your brand new shaft-driven BMW RT, GS, RS, R, you should still drop your final drive at 600 miles, change the fluid, and lube your rear drive shaft splines, bottom and top. Yank that thing out, because once rust sets in, that thing becomes almost married to the connection. It's almost impossible to get it out. So drop that thing down, pull the whole drive shaft out, lube both sides of it, put it back in, and every 12,000 miles, lube it again. It's a $13 stick of Molly Lube that Beamer Boneyard sells, and it'll last you the lifetime of ownership of your GS. If you're really nervous, then buy a rear tire, go to your dealer and ask them to do the test, and they'll probably install this thing. But it's not going to be, it's only going to remove the likelihood of standing water in your hollow rear swing arm. It is not going to completely eliminate all moisture completely. You can, like I've done, install a final drive breather hose from Touratech for $80 for a piece of rubber vinyl, hose that goes up. That's actually, I take it, and I'll put a link to the video below. You run it up to your rear subframe at the very top where your subframe pan is. And what this thing does is basically when your final drive decides to take in air from the atmosphere or dispel air from the atmosphere, it's doing so at a place on your bike where it's unlikely you'll be sitting in water up to your knees when that happens. Very unlikely. You'll also should check to make sure that the boot is very tightly sealed. If those 4 boot clips, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, ever get compromised, replace the boot. Some guys have gone as far as say every 20,000 miles I replace the boot, just as a matter of, it's a part of the consumables. Make sure that boot is in good condition and that it's sealed up with a little bit of liquid sealant, not glue, but kind of a sealant that is a white texture that comes to the factory to make sure that's all tight. So you basically have your breather relocated, you have a tight seal for your final drive, and you've done this modification that BMW will give you for free to make sure that any standing water gets dispersed to the atmosphere when you're riding hard. You've done as much as you can. And I'm not an alarmist saying that you're going to have a final drive failure in the near future. Some people have final drive fails at 5,000 miles, some at 150,000 miles. It's a lottery. And I still believe that the final drive shaft on BMWs is superior to having to maintain a chain or a belt. That's just my opinion. The fact that BMW has, kind of opened the floodgates by admitting that there was a design malfunction is a tough spot to be in, because what happens to all those people that had drive shafts and U-joints fail in the last 10 years due to corrosion that are now thinking, what the hell? I spent like $4,000 on parts and labor at my drive shaft repaired under warranty. Where's my compensation? And that may very well become a class action lawsuit against people that have receipts. That wasn't a part of this non-recall recall. BMW is also not replacing parts that have not failed yet or have not have wear as relation to this design flaw. They're running a test. It takes about 45 minutes. And then if that test comes back good, they give you your new set of tires or your new oil change and they send you on your way. So if you're looking to get a freebie out of BMW and get a free drive shaft or a free final drive or a free boot or free lubing, prepare for that test to come back A-okay. And, I think you could stomp your feet and you work with BMW's regional customer care team to get something out of this. But this is a voluntary recall. It's going to be done to affected bikes at some point between now and whenever you get your next service done. And that is the way they're doing it. So what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm going to do nothing in the near term. I'm going to keep riding this bike normally. And next time I change my fluid, I'm going to drop my final drive again because I'll be due for it. And pull my drive shaft out. I'll make a video showing the condition of my drive shaft for my local BMW dealer, and I will lube it up and I'll put it right back in. And then I'll next time I order a set of tires or have another issue related to that and take this bike to a dealer, I will have them look it over and let me know what they think, as I'm supposed to do. It sounds to me though that if I had a failure between now and that supposed appointment in the next 12 months, BMW is not going to, it appears they're not going to be doing much about it. It's almost like if you don't do the preventative maintenance, you have a failure. We're not extending our warranty coverage to purchasers of 2011 and newer motorcycles with drive shafts that have drive shaft failure or U-joint failure or final drive failure. We're not changing the rules. We're just offering this. I'll put a link below to the ADV Pulse article about it. I'll also put a link to the service bulletin, and you can do the reading for yourself and check it out. This is a longer video than I should have made, but I want to make it clear to people that out there that don't read all the nitty-gritty details. This is kind of the high-level summary and everything you need to know as an owner of a GS or an RT or an R or an RS. I'm probably forgetting one here. Shaft-driven BMW with a 1200 or a 1250 liquid-cooled engine. So good luck to you. And I welcome comments below letting me know that, hey, I had this service done. Here was my experience. Go for it. Type away. and hopefully it'll help other people that find this video. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a great rest of your summer, and ride safe.